Hi everyone, welcome to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to do an edit on this picture of a heron, and if you can see it here, with a fish in its mouth. And we're going to try and, give me a second, going a little bit closer. It's got a heron in its mouth, but there's enough detail there, it's sharp enough, so we're going to go and make a bit better fist of this picture so that two things. The water isn't quite as distracting with all the highlights on it, and that the heron sticks out or jumps out. So let's go do the first thing. Now I'm going to do it in stages. We're going to make a selection of the heron, separate it. We're then going to work on the heron separately and separately from the background, and then we'll bring them both together. First part I'm going to do is a selection. I'm going to make a selection using the pen tool. I'm going to zoom in to 200 or 300% because we want really quite an accurate selection, and it'll probably take me 10 minutes to do it accurately. But where a lot of people lose out on composite and on fixing images is when they make selections they don't take time to do it right, and you can see halos or artifacts in the image that you're really not wanting there. So we're going to use the pen tool, but first what I'm going to show you, the reason why we're having to do that, and the edges of this, I'm really close on, you can see the edges here, they're a little bit soft, and a couple of reasons for that. The main reason for this particular image is, if we go into the file information on here, see this camera data will show you that this is a Canon EOS 70D that took the image. The lens used was a 70-200 f2.8L, but the focal length was 390mm. That tells you that some kind of extender was used, but I happen to know it was a 2x extender on this lens, which means the lens was zoomed in almost to its max, or zoomed out, however you pronounce it. It was the full zoom was applied to the lens, which, and if you're not really sure about using a lens fully zoom, go into the video mode in your camera, fully zoom in and record a few seconds just to see how shaky your hand really is. You don't think it is, you think I'm not shaking at all. Do that and replay it and you'll see how shaky your hand is. One way of getting over that is to try and keep your focal length, which is 390mm, as close to the shutter speed number, the fraction of the second. So in this instance, for a 390 focal length, we would have wanted a shutter speed of about 1/400th of a second. And you can see it's 1/250th. So probably that's where the shake came from. Um, there's enough decent detail in here. There's enough decent detail in here. So let me get this on top of here. Get that off there. Yeah, there's enough detail in there. If we come down further at the body, if there's a bit more contrast, we can see the feathers. We can see fairly close up, but when we get the edges, there's a little bit of softness there. So camera movement, probably. Shutter speed, not enough. But as I say, we'll try and improve it. Now, so I'm going to make a selection with the pen tool. I'll show you a little bit and then I'm just going to pause while I do the rest of it. Ideally, you want as tight in selection as you can possibly get. And I'll just start here on the sort of crown of the head, if you like. And we want that close all the way around, because the tighter the selection all the way around, the less I have to do afterwards to make sure we've got a really good selection. So I'll do that now and I'll come back to you when I've completed it. Okay, that's me made the selection. Now, it's not the best selection in the world, but it's quite a lot. There's a lot of curves and a lot of little bits that required a bit of attention. Down here, I'm not sure where the best selection was, so we're working with what we've got. So this is the first selection. So we now right click, make selection, and I'm not going to feather it at all. Yeah, let's feather it one pixel. And we're just going to make a duplicate of that layer. And I'm going to do two things. I'm going to save the selection first. So we'll do select, save selection, and I'll call it birdie. And click OK. I'm now going to duplicate the layer, Control and J, and that's just going to duplicate the heron. If we turn that off, that's what I've got the heron. Straight away I can see there's a little bit there needs tidied up, a little bit here in the neck, a little bit up here. I'm going to put a layer in between, just put a wee, fill it with white or something just now, just so we can see what we're doing. And looking, that's not white. D for default, X, Control D, we're doing the foreground color, that's fine. So you can see wherever we see, like say the nose here, or the beak, you can see there's a little black edge on it. It probably shouldn't be a black edge, it should be the same color as the rest. And probably, and some of that stuff there is markers, but I'm sure some of it probably isn't. This kind of green thick line up there. And it's not too bad underneath. And up the line at the back. So there's a little bit to do, but not awful lot. So we'll make that a little bit smaller. Go back onto the same layer as the cutout, and we'll hit Control and J. Now this white layer is only for visual reference. We're going to be deleting it, so we can ignore that. So we've now got it selected again. Again, I'm going really close in. I'm at 500%. And we're going to take the stamp tool. So hit S on your keyboard for the stamp tool. And I'm just going to go really tight in. I mean, the selection is pretty much a millimeter or two from where I'm going to put it down. And all I'm doing is tidying up the edge. I'm not trying to get rid of any markings that we don't want or anything like that. Just tightening up the edge. So I'll just go around, do this all the way around, and we'll pause the video just now. So we're almost finished now. And basically all I'm doing is taking a sample from inside the selection and go right up to the edge and just painting into the edge. We're not trying to lose colours that need to be there or anything else, but I don't think the colours that I'm losing are meant to be there. This here, leave, because I think it's probably marking similar to this. This little bit here, maybe, that's just a bit opaque looking. I can actually see shadow in that one. And I think we're pretty good to go for there. So that's just done that. Now we'll get rid of this white layer. We don't actually need that. So we'll deselected that. And we'll get rid of the white layer. So now we have our bird nicely selected. I'm going to duplicate the back layer as well. Control and J. So what we're going to do here is we're going to make a selection of the bird, but on this background layer. Now get rid of the selected bird. We're only working on the backward layer. So we can do a couple of things here, but one of the best things we can do is go to Edit, Fill, and come down to Content Aware. And we're going to try and get rid of the bird in this image here using Content Aware. Now, it makes a good job of it, never perfect, but it's a good enough job. Now, if we look here, we've still got let's make the bird visible for a second. You'll see there's white here, which bird's white, that's white. There's a little bit darker. So what we're going to do is get rid of some of that white. But first we need to get rid of the bird. So again, back to the stamp tool. Stamp tool is the best tool for this. We could do it on an empty layer, don't have to do it on a full layer. So decent size stamp tool. We'll take a sample from about here. We're just going to paint across there. And that should come in fairly natural. Now, I'm aware there's a little light spot here, so I'm just going to get rid of that. I don't know what that is. We'll get rid of it anyway. And again, we're just going to keep back and forward over this selection and just keep going until we start hitting the sort of lighter patches. And I'm just going to come down roughly to about the waters, where the water, where the bird meets its reflection, if you like. And that's pretty neat there. So let's bring our bird back into it for a second. I've done that in the wrong layer, so we'll now have to undo all of that. So we're on the wrong layer for that, so we'll hide the bird layer. And we're now on this layer, so we'll try that again. Up to edit, fill, content aware fill. And hopefully it does just as good a job. And we'll just quickly do that. I'm going to get rid of this bit and some of this white there that's just bordering the bird's head. So stamp tool, and we're just going to paint in here. And I'm actually introducing something that's not there. I'm introducing some plants, so we'll just get rid of that and we'll just make sure that we paint one direction. And we'll try and keep a fairly consistent, and we'll just come down to about there. Now you might wonder why I'm taking it away from there, but it'll become become apparent. So on this layer here we have our bird, and that there layer we have our reflection. So let's work on the reflection first. We're definitely going to be darkening it down a bit and bring a bit more clarity into the foreground. So let's go into camera raw filter. So go filter, camera raw filter. We've left the reflection there for a reason, because we're going to line our bird up. Now, first thing I'm going to do is take reflections all the way down to zero almost. The next thing I'm going to do is drop the exposure by maybe about half a stop. And that's not bad. Then we're going to go into the FX tab. And within the FX tab is where this here lives, the haze. And we're just going to take that slider to about 25 or 30 I've always found is good. And that's not too bad there. We'll go back into the detail tab. I'm going to add in a little bit of vibrance. Vibrance just increases the it increases the mid-tones rather than the overall saturation. If I use the saturation, that increases everything pretty much equally, but not to stop you doing a little bit of both. And maybe just bump the contrast and clarity up a little as well. And you can see we're making that almost a completely smooth existence up here, and we're getting rid of that. We'll also take the whites down, and that pretty much ensures anything that's pure white will not be pure white anymore, like the highlights. And we'll bring the highlights up, the shadows up a little, just a little, and that brings more of that colour in, and we lose. It's almost like being putting a polarizer over the top of this. So if we click OK, that's that effect now in here. And see it a bit better against the bird in a minute. So there we see, and we've not done anything to the bird yet. All we've done is cut that out. But we're going to take the bird into there now. And because it's sitting on a layer of its own, when we go into camera raw filter, click. I'm just going to zoom this in a bit. and maybe put a little bit in the middle of the screen. So we're going to do some of the same, but we'll start off here at the effects. Again, we're going to dehaze, and dehaze again, I think it's a bit like a polarizing filter. It will take glare off rather than taking color out. It's not adding any color to that, that isn't there, but if there's a little bit blue in the coat or feathers, you're seeing that. We're then going to go into the whites on this one, and we're going to bring the whites up a little bit. And we're going to hold the Alt key down and just take the blacks down a little bit, just till we get a... Alright, we'll not hold the Alt key down, we'll just do that. And that just adds a little bit of black into the darkest bits, and we're not clipping yet, so there is no blacks anywhere. At the moment, the whites are whiter, the darks are darker. We're also going to go into the clarity in here and add a little bit of clarity, not too much. And the vibrance as well, and that just makes a better use of the colour that's already there, and maybe just a touch of warmth into this. So we're retaining that kind of pink sort of tinge to it. Let's have a wee look at the eye, and we'll put a little bit of exposure into the eye, just a tiny, tiny fraction. And we'll add a little bit of clarity into there as well, just for the sake of it. So we click OK. And that's starting to look not too bad. So before we lose the background effect, I'm going to take another sample of this. I'm going to duplicate that layer. And now we're going to add on this blur. And you can see they've got a bit of blur here on the side already, but we're going to add some blur into the background of this image. And to do that, we go up to Filter, Blur, and we go to Gaussian Blur. Take a number to suit. I think something like 20 to 25 will suit this. So we'll go to 20 to start with. Not too much. Nice. Let's go to 25. And we'll click OK. And we want to make this look like the foreground in focus and the background is dropping more into a blur. In the same way as if you had a fast lens. Excuse me. So we're going to put a mask here. And at the moment, say this here is sitting, this is untouched. It's just the background, and the blur is evenly spread across that whole background. We want to make it look less spread out. So we're going to select the gradient tool, and we've got the default color selected down here, black to the foreground, white to the foreground. So we want X on the keyboard, we'll bring black to the foreground. And we want to select an area probably just about higher than the middle of this. And what the gradient does is it gradually introduces what you're doing. So I've got that whole background layer blurred. Now if I paint, I'll just undo that. If I paint black into here, over this whole layer, all that blur that is at the moment you're seeing would be hidden. But I only want to hide some of the blur. I want to hide it pretty much all down here at the front, and then just a little bit less and a little bit less and a little bit less until we get to about here, and then I want it to be blurred pretty much for all the rest of it. So highlight the mask, which is white, got back black on your foreground color, and use the gradient tool, and you want to come down with it. So hold shift key, start from above your middle, maybe about 3/4 of the way up, and hold shift key down, left click and hold, and just drag it down. And you can see on the gradient map here, we've got solid black at the bottom, and it gradually comes less and less and less and less. So where it comes less up to about here, that's further into your image. It's sort of heading to where the background of that image would be. And that's pretty much done it. I just want a little bit more contrast into this bird. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to use a curves layer. And I'm going to clip the curves layer to this layer here. So the only, if I do a change just now, it's affecting the whole image. If I hold the Alt key down and we click, when you see the arrow, if at the moment you see the wee hand, when I go up and up and up, you see it turns to that little arrow. And if I left click now, that's now not aligned with any other mask, and that basically tells you that it's only attached to the layer below it. So now any changes I do only affect our little bird here. So I'm going to just put a little bit brightness into it. And I'll tell you the way I do it is if you look at these intersections here, I do the opposing one. So we go, I'm putting what's called an S curve. So we're lifting from here, come down to the opposite corner, and we're dragging down from here. And all that's doing is creating a little bit of contrast that wasn't there. And we could even apply that to them. So if we see image, apply image, say OK. The only part of this that's been affected is a bird. It's not quite as, I think maybe I would just like to trim this in. I've already cropped this image. I'm just going to crop it in a tiny wee bit more because there's a little bit of horizon that I don't like. Just about there. And then we've got the bird on an intersection. It's on this third intersection. It's on the 1, 2, 3. So it's on the intersection of this third block, if you like. And if we look at the bottom 1, 2, 3, it's sitting right in this intersection here. Click OK. And there you have it. And go full screen on this. We'll get rid of the layers. And you can see it's quite a difference, but now this bird here is pretty much the only bird in focus. So we'll go back to the start, and if we hold the Alt key down and click on this little eye here, this is where it started, and this is where it is now. One last bit to make this look authentic, like at the moment, this here, we've added blur in, but we don't just arbitrarily want to add it over the whole image. This here is in front, this is nearer the foreground than that. And while some of it would naturally be blurred because of the lens and the zoom that you're using, it wouldn't be as blurred as the background. So what we do to get rid of that is we'll take B for the brush, and we're going to paint black, and we're just going to paint black over this stuff here. Especially the sort of main body of it. It doesn't matter so much about the edges that are over the water, but definitely the main things that are meant to be in focus in that, like flowers, etc., etc. We want to bring them back to be sort of naturally still sharp-ish, although they're not sharp because of the zoom that's been used, but they're not as blurred as this bit back here. So there you go, that's it all done. So we started there and we took it to there. Sure, that's a drastic change. And this is my first chance to edit, and this is the second one. So if you liked this video, give it a like, give it a share. Make sure you've signed up for email subscriptions and you'll be notified whenever I upload a new one. Thank you.